And now, it's time for another Dice Tower review with Tom Vasel.
Hey folks, today we're talking about a game called Inkognito. Now, Inkognito is not a brand new game. In fact, it originally came out in 1988. It's almost 25, well, it's over 25 years old. But this is a reprint from Ares Games. This game is a classic deduction game from Leo Calavini and the late great Alex Randolph. Many people have praised this game, and we were very glad to see Ares bring it back into print, but I had never played the original one, so I was very glad to try this one out. I'm a big fan of logic and deduction games, and this one has some really cool little figures in it, and secret identities, a spy theme. Sounds cool, is it? Let's look. At the beginning of the game, each player chooses a color and places their 4 spies, which have 4 different body types. You have big chunky here, you have skinny, you have tall, and you have short. That's really 4 different characteristics, and they each have different color spots on the board where you place your guys. You also have the ambassador, who gets to sit right here. Each player is also going to get a handful of cards with their colors that show these 4 different body types, and they also show 4 of the people who are in the game. Now, you're going to be secretly one of these 4 people. You're either going to be Lord Fiddlebottom, or Colonel Bubble, or Madame Zaza, or Agent X. Madame Zaza and Agent X are working together, and Colonel Bubble and Lord Fiddlebottom are working together. Each person is going to be given one of these cards secretly from a pile of 4. You're also going to be given a body type, so that shows you, like for example, if I'm Colonel Bubble and I'm red, then I know that this is me. This is actually Colonel Bubble. And then you also get a letter that describes your mission. Players are going to have a sheet which they will record information about the other players on, and they also get a shield which covers your sheet and also gives you some important mission information, and I'll talk about that in a moment. On your turn, you're going to take this very strange object, one of the strangest objects in any game. It's some masked phantom, some people call it a nun, whatever. Inside are a bunch of colored balls. You'll shake them up, and then you'll drop it so that 3 colored balls are available here. These colored balls give you the different actions that you can do. So, if you get a blue ball, you can move one of your spies along a C zone from one spot to another. If you get an orange ball, which there's one, an orange ball, you can move your guys in one of the land areas. If you get a white ball, you can move your guy on a sea or a land area. And if you can move the same person if you like to. If you get a purple one, you can move one of your opponents one space on any spot. And if you get a black one, you can move the ambassador. Now what you're trying to do, at least in the beginning of the game, is to make it so one of your people lands on someone else's. At that point, you can get some information from them. You can ask them about their identity, or you can ask them about their build. If you ask them about their identity, they have to give you 2 of their identity cards and 1 build. If they ask you about your build, if you want to ask them about their build, they have to give you 2 build and 1 identity. So they pick any 3 cards and give them to you. One of those cards must be true. So if I get this from you, I know that you are either Madame Zaza, you are thin, or you are tall. I don't know, but I know you're one of those. And you're not allowed to give the same 3 cards to somebody twice. So you have to be very cautious. If you do that, you actually then have to take them back and give them only 2, and one of those 2 has to be true. Gives them more information. If the ambassador lands on somebody, you can ask them for 2 cards. And so you either ask for 2 identities, or you can ask for 2 builds. So if I get this, now I know that you're Madame Zaza or Lord Fiddlebottom. You're also allowed to make motions with your face, winking eyes, and whatever else you can to give people information. Because you're trying to figure out who your partner is. See, once you know who your partner is, hopefully, one of the 3 cards that you give them when information is given can be your letter card, your mission card. See, once players know that, they can then look at their screens. And this is really interesting here. Basically, let's say that we're Agent X and Madame Zaza, and we have A and B. Then we look here, and this tells us what to do. We need to land any piece on Agent X. So we land a piece on Agent X. I'm sorry, this is Lord Fiddlebottom. If we're Lord Fiddlebottom and his plump friend, and we land any piece on Agent X, we win. So we have to do that. If we are Agent X and Madame Zaza and we have A and B, we need to land a piece on the ambassador. But if we're D and C, we simply have to move Agent X to space 6. So there's a lot of different things that you have to do and figure out. But once you figure it out, and once you figure out your mission, so let's say you have to move Agent X to 6, and I'm yellow and Agent X is my skinny guy, and I get him to space 6. At that point, I shake hands with my partner and say, the mission accomplished. And we win the game. Unless, of course, that person's not my partner, in which case the other team wins. Or if that wasn't Agent X, or, anything is wrong. So you have to figure out who your partner is. You have to sometimes figure out who your opponents are. And you have to figure out what your mission is, and then accomplish that mission. When you land on someone, that person, then you can send them to another spot on the board. But you also, if you land on someone and don't want to ask them questions, you can move another spot. Sometimes you'll do that later on in the game. That's the 4-player game. There is a variant for 5 players where one person is the ambassador and he's just trying to figure out exactly who the other 4 people are. And there's a variant for 3 players too, where one person has to do one thing, but I wouldn't recommend that at all. It's best for 4 or 5 players. The first time I played Inkognito, it was bombed. I was the only person who liked it. But as I continued to play it, I found that many people did like it, and the first group, I found that there are some people who do not like this type of game. They do not like trying to figure out who everybody is and then accomplishing something. They feel it's kind of random. I don't think it's random at all. I love sitting there giving cards out, trying to figure out who's giving me, and you're sitting there trying frantically to figure out who your partner is. There's a sense of relief when you do. Hopefully you have your partner right, and you got to figure out the right time to pass your mission information. You can even pass mission information to someone else and hope to mess them up. There's like lots of dirty little tricks you can do over the course of this game. At first I thought, well, moving the people around is just kind of random. Move them into you, I could ask a question. And it is kind of at the beginning of the game, it is random, but as the game progresses, that movement becomes important because maybe someone's supposed to land on Agent X. And if I can figure out what your mission is, what you're trying to do, then I can try to stop that from happening before we do our mission. The 5-player game was okay. It's a way to let a 5th player in, but this game shines as an exactly 4-player game. 2 partners playing with each other, trying to figure out. It has some really neat toy factor involved, and this thing is just a really fun thing to shake it and see what colors come out. I don't know what it is. I wish more games used randomizers like this. The cards are neat. But this game has a problem, that many deduction games do, that if someone makes an error, it can mess the whole thing up. So you have to be cautious to play with people who aren't prone to, I gave you all lie cards, forgot I was supposed to give you a real, a truth one. Well, that just totally destroyed the game. So you have to be cautious of that, but if you do, it's very enjoyable. I love the idea of deduction, and having a partner who you may or may not know is cool. I'm not really sold on the whole winking at people and doing the little hand motions to tell people information. I'm almost rather just do the straight cards, but that's in the game, allows you to role play, and it also allows you just to straight up lie to people. I wink at you and he must be Lord Fiddlebottom. No, I just winked at you. Of course, that might get you slapped in the game too, who knows. Very cool. An older game that still has legs today, still stands strong. The deduction category of games is not a big one, and this is one I think that is very solid, and I'm really glad that Ares brought it back into print and did an excellent job with it. I recommend this game, Inkognito.
Thanks so much for watching the Dice Tower videos. Find more great videos and reviews, as well as our top-rated audio podcast at Dicetower.com. You can also find other great shows at Dicetowernetwork.com. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower. The Dice Tower is sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc., where you can find great games for great prices. Cool stuff in stock. Check them out at CoolStuffInc.com.
Shut that door.
There.